Welcome to today's podcast interview. I brought on Traci Hill. Traci, welcome.
Welcome to me. Thank you. I want to say thank you. Glad to be here.
For those that are new to you, please give a little background. Where do you live and what do you do?
So my name is Traci and I live in Chicago. I am a Chicago firefighter, but also more importantly, I am a subtle energy alchemist. And that is, as I explain it, I help people raise their vibration on more of a subtle level so that you can continue to move through life, work and be a parent without the major upheaval, but still open yourself up to who you really are and who you're really meant to be.
Well, I know we're both Dispenza fans, and I was rereading the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, yesterday. But one of the figures he has in that book is we all have this identity gap. So who we portray ourselves to be, right? Think about social media, our highlight reel. We're wearing these masks, putting on these facades versus how we really feel inside, which many people are crumbling, but put on this happy face. So can we talk about how to close that identity gap to show up authentically?
Absolutely. The one thing I always tell my clients, which is something you have to practice, but I like to give free things, lots of free things, is question everything. So my journey somewhat started, always been on the spiritual journey, but I remember very specifically being 18, sitting in Catholic church, just being the good girl, the Catholic, and the priest saying something about how there was like a hierarchy of living beings. And I was like, that doesn't really make sense to me. Not to mention, I already questioned a lot of the Bible stories, but I was like, if God created everything, why does there have to be a hierarchy? Aren't we all just equal in being alive? And so then going through college, I started questioning even more things because I had someone say like, well, why, I remember she questioned a lot of things. I'm like, huh. So this idea of questioning everything. I know we had talked about, doing the thing your parents want you to do. And I talk about this a lot with my following. But if you are following your parents in what they want you to do, you're just living out their dreams. So like we went to college and then, you get married, you have kids, you have the house, you do all these things to make a living, but you're just living and you're not thriving. And so question, is this really what I want? Question, I like to use this example. Broccoli is a superfood. Okay, broccoli is super healthy, but not for everybody. If broccoli does not make you feel good, don't eat the broccoli just because everybody else says it's good for you. So question, is this really good for me? Is this what I want right now? Is this what I need right now? Why am I doing this? Why have I done that? Do I really need to make a 6-figure income to survive? Do I really want to live in this place? Do I really want to buy a house, or do I just want to move around and rent? I mean, there's so many possibilities for living your own life, but we forget that we have our own thinking, our own mind, we have our own desires, needs, wants. And when we ignore that, that's when we stop questioning. And then we're giving our power away to everybody else except ourselves. So harnessing your own personal power is super important. And it is much easier done when you start questioning.
And I found when you follow what other people tell you to do, it is not fulfilling and does not bring happiness. And you know what? That's even I've worked with some very successful, like multi-millionaire businessmen who are miserable. And so I end up asking them, what is your definition of success? And when like that never even came to mind for them. So when they sit down and they write out, well, I want time and financial freedom. I want to coach my son's baseball game. I want to play golf on Thursdays. Oh, well, then you need to go do more of that. It's not money, but can we talk more about, there was something else you just touched on that was top of mind for me. Oh, can we talk about paradigms? Can you please define what a paradigm is, how we've all been conditioned and programmed into certain beliefs, and that maybe they're not serving us?
Absolutely. So as we are going through childhood and we are conditioned into, um, I'm going to talk about money because this was, I'll make it personal on me. So I grew up thinking and hearing and conditioned to believe that money is the root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think we're made of money? All these money things. And so as I grew up, I had to really work on, what is my belief around money? I didn't even realize I had like a money issue. Because I just was told, go make money. And while obviously I wanted to make money and I knew I wanted to be happy, I thought that money was going to make me happy. And it certainly did not. So, so I had to go through, it's this vicious cycle, right? You're like going through the cycle of like, okay, I made money. So now I think I'm happy because people have told me I'm happy with, I have money. But then you realize that that is not actually making you happy. So you continue through these cycles of, why do I keep doing this? But you continue to get stuck in that because you're doing what everybody else does and no one's questioning why you're doing it. So I lost my train of thought. um,
Well,
uh,
something that comes to mind while you sharing that about money. Here's what I found, because we end up becoming addicted to seeking external fulfillment, trying to fill that internal void. So I remember in my 20s working in corporate, starting to make money, and of course, I want to go on shopping sprees. I want to look cute, I want to whatever. So my shopping sprees used to be $100, and then all of a sudden they were growing to, it was like $500 to fill that void. And then I got to a point I could go out easily and drop $1,000, and all of that happiness, that joy was very fleeting. So only to find out that we can't seek externally. Let's talk about that. Whether it's money, a relationship, a career, a bigger house, a shiny object, travel is a big one for people, escaping. Let's talk about how those things will never fill that internal void we're feeling.
yeah, I talk about that a lot, a lot, a lot. The idea of using, I call it consumption. So whatever you're consuming, whether it's food, something, and all the senses, right? So you're touching, seeing, feeling, experiencing, all this constant consuming is typically avoidance. So even I actually was an over exerciser. I would exercise like 4 to 8 hours a day. I don't recommend that to anybody. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
Actually destroyed me. But doing all of these things and constantly doing, okay, being in the masculine is avoidance, including sleeping overly, sleeping too much, watching TV too much. All of it is to avoid feeling. And the feelings are attached to emotion. And those emotions, when we feel the emotions, they actually bring on a physical change to our body. So if we're constantly pushing down an emotion and avoiding feeling, we're allowing that to sit in our body and actually get stuck in our body, which causes disease. But then we're perpetuating the cycle because it gets comfortable to not feel, and it's more comfortable to be uncomfortable in the habit that you've chosen or habits that you've chosen, like alcohol is a big one, shopping is another big one, TV is another huge one. Those get very comfortable because they're societal norms. And then we continue these cycles because they feel normal, but yet we're still not happy. And that happiness is what you're seeking is actually internal and not external. If you're constantly looking outside of you, like, because I remember like, oh, when I get to $100,000 a year, I'm going to be so happy. Well, I could just be happy now. I could choose joy right now and nothing else matters. oh, when I get married to that guy, I'm going to pick that guy and I'm going to get married to that guy. I'm going to be so happy. When I have kids, I'm going to be so happy. When I blah, 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 I'm going to be so happy. And that's 100% not true. Like you said, it's fleeting. It'll, um, give you that hit of endorphins immediately, but then it goes away because you haven't found internal joy. And that's why almost all lottery winners, they go right back to where they were, because it's that money is just, it's nothing unless you are internally happy. So you're the guy that you worked with that made multi-millions, he's not happy because he's been seeking it from something else that is not internal.
Well, and his came from the need to seek approval and validation. That's what we really drilled down to. And then, anyway, something you just brought up, I'd love to talk about since we're talking about money. And this is so timely because there's a couple clients and I have one call this afternoon and that's what he really wants to talk about. Like, yeah, help me with my money mindset. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun because it's not going to be what he thinks.
Juicy.
But what you just shared, I love that statistic. And I learned this about a year ago when I was coming up with all the stuff. I created a money mindset course. But yes, 70% of lottery winners, so people who win multi-million-dollar jackpots, blow it all within 3 to 5 years. And I love Ed Milet uses the idea of a thermostat. We all have this set point. So I like to think of it, if our set point, our quote comfort zone, 75 degrees, that's what we know. It's predictable, even if it's not comfortable, it's comfortable. So, but anytime something gets better, we sabotage. If it gets worse, we'll do what we have to do to bring it back up. So what we want to talk about is how do we raise through frequency, vibration, energy? How do we raise our set point to experience all that we have that's available for us? How do we do that?
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, of course, there's so many ways to go about this, right?
Yeah.
But what I know, and where I come from, and again, this is not the only way, and you don't have to, believe my way, but what I've experienced is that you are 100% right. I mean, you can think about it as your own personal temperature. Like when I get too cold, it's like, oh my God, you get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then you want to fix it. And so no matter which extreme it is and what you're talking about. And just as like a side note, and if you want to go back to it, we can, but I had a fear of success and a fear of failure. And that goes to both upper and lower on that scale. And most people are like, how do you have both? But it's that fear of being outside the comfort zone. So one way to go about moving that set point is by doing things that make you uncomfortable, because the more you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, the more you're okay moving that scale up. Because what will happen is you'll experience things more that you want to experience, but not afraid to try them. So that's one way. And you always start small. So maybe you never talk to anybody in the grocery line at the store. And so today you decide, I'm going to start a conversation with the person behind me. It's slightly uncomfortable for you, but it's something. It's a small step. I would love to give people these like grand steps, but most people won't do them because it's too big of a jump, right? So another way to work on moving that set point is to understand what your fears are. So we're either in love or we're in fear. Those are really the two main things. So if we're not experiencing love, and love is a really hot topic, it's a really big topic. So if we're living in fear, we're never going to experience these new realities for ourselves because we want to stay safe. We're looking to keep our ego in check. Our ego wants to prove that we're right all the time. It wants to keep us safe. It wants to keep us alive. But fortunately, we're not running from the proverbial tiger anymore. We're dealing with social media and traffic and bills and all these other things, but our ego still projects that out as we could die, but we really won't. So one, it's about questioning everything. Perspective. What is your perspective on things? Like really think about, I like to challenge my clients, like, okay, what happens if you don't have to do anything. You literally do not have to do anything. You can stop breathing. Your body will catch up and start breathing again, but you can choose to stop breathing. You can choose to stop paying your bills. There will be consequences, but you don't have. So, make sure that the things that you are doing in your life are of the highest intention for yourself. So if you're not, I like to say that words really matter. So if you're always saying, I have to do this, do you have to do it, or do you choose to do it, or are you blessed to get to do it? Like, what's the deal here? Because if you're always having to do things, that means that you're already in lack, or there's resentment. So to move that set point, it's about really understanding where you're coming from in your life. That set point's not going to move until you know yourself, really. Yeah. I mean, you can force it to move a little bit, but until you really know who you are, which is super important, which is about sitting. I don't like to say meditate because a lot of people are like, meditate. But sitting silently and giving yourself some space to like explore what your mind is constantly running around in its head. Yeah. And then like put a branch in it to stop the smoke from going around and around, and like, why am I constantly thinking that? Because a lot of people don't even know they have these scripts running through their head. So if you are constantly consuming things, you can't hear the script. And if you're constantly running a script, that script is going to stop you from moving that set point higher. So I hope I answered that well enough.
Yes. But for somebody who's newer to this, number one, in summary, what I heard you say is awareness is the first step. And that's definitely what I teach. Until you become aware, so in our lingo, that would be you have to become conscious of the unconscious. In order to get out of autopilot, going through life's motions, rinse, wash, repeat, you have to stop the momentum and start paying attention. Now, I'll share when I started doing this, and this is back in my 20s, I habitually was very used to being busy because in college I worked full time while going to school full time. So 7 days a week, I had stuff going on, and I just was used to go, go, go. So then when I moved into corporate, well, then my social life needed to be the filler. So 7 days a week, I was go, 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 because I didn't want to sit alone with my thoughts, because that can be really freaking uncomfortable. So I want to share with people where I was. That's really uncomfortable, right? We want to avoid, numb out, scroll, whatever. To now where I am today, I seek solitude. I love being alone. I travel alone. Like I love being in my own company because that's no longer a scary, chaotic place. Well, I mean, I'm still human. I have the ups and downs, but generally speaking, like I'm not running from myself, because wherever you go, there you are, right? You can't outrun you.
Nope.
Okay, so I want to share kind of on the flip side, because I believe this is a journey. I don't think this work stops. You don't just one day you're enlightened. And I think if you are, then you're probably not in the human experience. So I really do think of this as like I'm very much an endurance athlete. So I love running and triathlons and stuff. I am on the longest ultra marathon because there is no finish line, right? And that's what I have to talk myself into. This is for me. It's daily disciplines, it's lifestyle, but it's having fun. And that's something we talked about before recording. Like, I think people are taking life too seriously. And it doesn't
100%.
Yeah, it doesn't have. So can we talk more about the fun? Can we talk about, I mean, manifestation? I don't think it's woo-woo. It simply is. And science, if you think it's woo-woo, quantum physics can teach us thoughts become things. But can we talk about the fun side of it? Like when you are on this journey and the processes and understanding, oh, well, when I let go of the false beliefs, the fear, the lack, the limitation, how abundant and amazing it can be.
Absolutely. Yes. we're talking about flow, and flow is the opposite of control. So coming from a former like everything's got to be personally in control. Like I didn't try to control things so much around me, but at myself. So like I was so disciplined, you know, the workout, the food, the gotta meditate. My meditation wasn't good. It wasn't, I shouldn't say it wasn't good, but it wasn't um fruitful because I was making myself do all of these things. I was very much in control of everything I needed to get done. I wasn't in flow. We all have seasons, and I don't just mean, you know, summer, fall, winter, spring, but we have age seasons, we have growth seasons as far as like spiritual growth, mental growth. There's a reason winter is a time to slow down. It's because it's our body's way of saying, okay, it's time to go inward. It's time to take a look at what worked for us this year. Where do we want to go? What do we want to plant to harvest in the summer? So then the spring is obviously very metaphorical. Also, is what are we going to plant now? So now it's time to take some action and see what we can plant, you know, thoughtful planting, intuitive planting. And so if we're constantly doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and obviously, of course, expecting different results, that's insanity, but also doing that and then feeling run down, feeling tired because you've never given yourself a break to maybe say, you know what, today I'm gonna do yoga today instead of go weight train, or I'm gonna go for a walk in the woods, or you know what, I'm gonna take a nap today because I haven't taken a nap. It's like really listening to yourself, and that's going with the flow. It's like you can kind of relate that to synchronicities. You know, it's like when you think about like, oh, you know what, I really want to look into chaga mushrooms. And well, of course, your phone's listening to you all the time, but it you all of a sudden see something about mushrooms over here, and that leads you down to another path and another path, and allowing yourself to flow into that. But if you're so strict on your personal lifestyle, then you have blinders on and you're not giving yourself the freedom to just explore and be. So discipline's all about that masculine energy, whereas being is the creative, or the feminine is the creative being energy. And that energy, that feminine energy, is all about flow. It's all about watching the waves come and go. It's about watching the phases of the moon. It's just letting go. It doesn't mean not taking action, because that's different. It just means that you're not forcing things when they're no longer serving you. And in order to do that, even Buddhists talk about this a lot, is that we have to laugh every day. Buddhists laugh every day. And so one of my core values is humor. And fortunately, my fiance is super funny. So his job is to make me laugh every day. I make sure that I laugh, especially at myself every day, because I do something every day to make myself laugh. Yeah. But it's really important, because if you're taking things so seriously, you're always in that monkey mind, and the creative side can't express itself. And that creative side is really what life is all about. We don't have life without creation. So to be in flow is really about life.
Well, I want to ask your perspective, because I have found, again, I'm in this human experience too, when I am trying to control, so the term kind of in the industry is manic manifesting. When you're trying to make something happen, maybe it's a limited perspective, you know, I need to sign 10 new clients to make this whatever. It's very fear-based. And when we're trying to make something happen, that's when we create a lot of resistance, internal resistance, right? The energy's not flowing, we're not connected. And so that's why I shared with you, I create what I call experiments. It helps me to detach from the outcome. I think of them as experiments, like I'm having fun with this. Okay, my focus is currently on I did something recently, and again, I have fun with this. And so my idea was I wanted to go to a Denver Nuggets game for free. That was it. I set the intention. I want to attend a Nuggets game for free, and I let go. And that's why the easiest metaphor I've come up with this is think about when we shop on Amazon. Do you shop on Amazon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I shop on Amazon. When I go to the search bar and place my order, like I'm looking up what I want and I place the order and I check out, we let go, right? So sometimes Abraham Hicks calls it a gestation period. Sometimes my Amazon packages are same day, next day, 2 days. Sometimes they get delayed, but they always come. And so, anyway, back to that nugget example. In less than a week, a guy that I met 6 months prior, quote, happened to reach out to me. Hey, Heather, you've been on my mind, blah, blah, blah. I have extra ticket to the Nuggets game tonight. Would you like to join me? I was like, well, that was fun. And so again, I have countless examples of these. We all do, but for me, it's whether or not you're living your life by design or by default, conscious and intentional or autopilot. And I believe we all have a choice every moment.
Absolutely.
So I would love to hear from you. What are some daily disciplines, daily practices? I like to use the word rituals, not routines, that you are using to help quiet the monkey mind, that internal chatter, to connect within, to create a life of joy and ease.
I used to be, it has shifted, which is why I'm prefacing this. I used to be like pretty darn disciplined. But with my job, I've been a firefighter for 23 years. I don't have consistency, but as much as I can, uh, I create consistency. And so that would be like, again, work out in the morning, come home and shower, meditate, eat, all these things. So I actually have a giant list of tools and techniques that I use, but I pick what my body needs. Like today, and actually the last few days, I really needed grounding. So I've been going out barefoot and just sucking in Mother Nature as much as I can. And that's been super helpful. I do meditate. Sometimes it's only 3 minutes a day. Sometimes it's 20. I try to read at least 10 minutes, but I'm also back in school. So that's kind of like a double-edged sword there. I try to go for walks as much as possible outside, but I'm a big baby when it's cold out, but now it's nice. Get outside and walk. I talk to my plants. I talk to my crystals. I do my hape. I have cacao. So, and I have a lot more tools, but
Yeah.
a lot of these, I also have a frequency scanner that I use religiously, actually. But I use all of these when I feel like I need them. Sometimes I won't have cacao for like 2 weeks. Other times it's like 5 days in a row. It's just whatever my body is feeling. But I'm also super in tune with my body because as you do this work, and like you said, the journey never, never, never ends. It's always going to be, and that's totally okay. But as you do the work, you get more in tune with what your body is needing at the time. And just to, emphasize more of what you said about looking at it like an experiment, I look at it like childlike awe. Like, what would a child say? Sometimes I don't kill anything. So if there's a spider in our house, I will literally like look at it. I'm like, listen, dude, you're in the house. That's totally cool. I'm not going to kill you. Just don't go on my coffee or on my head. Okay. Never fails. So like, I just look at it like, how would a child view, sometimes I sit in the grass and I'm like, man, look at these blades of grass. That's really cool. And I'll take one and like play with it and just enjoy really what life is about is just being in the moment.
Present.
And yeah, the presence of it all, because I was so much in the doing before that I missed a lot of things. I actually don't remember certain parts of my life because I was so worried about the next moment. That's also a trauma response, but now I don't worry too much about what it is that I'm specifically doing, as long as I'm being present doing it. So if I'm going to watch, I barely watch TV, maybe once every 2 weeks. But when I do, it's like, okay, you know what? I feel like zoning out right now. So I'm going to intentionally watch TV just to kind of do something different. And so I will. Yeah. But I don't watch TV just to have noise on in the background or to get sucked into some kind of drama or something. It's intentional just to like, you know what, we're going to chill. So that's what we do. But as long as everything is viewed as an experiment or like a child would view it, you will find that the experience becomes more heightened and much more enjoyable.
So this is coming to mind. What are you doing? I think of it as like your second act. What are you doing in this second act of your life? Because you've gone through the journey, learned a lot, in a new relationship, have a side business as well. What's the second act look like for you?
Well, it's interesting because it just keeps growing and expanding and shifting. And I am in this slight shift right now. I revamped my coaching program, but I have been prepping to get on stage to speak. And also, I did my first big retreat last month and loved it. And the woman it was just amazing growth that they had. And it was just so easy for me. It wasn't work at all. The prep up to it was, but the actual retreat itself was not work. And so I am going to plan another one for next year and really loving just helping bigger groups of women, like I should say on a larger scale, understand that they don't have to be in the reality that they're in if they don't enjoy it. Life should be enjoyable. Not every moment is going to be enjoyable. Like you said, it's like sometimes life just, we get like, why now? However, most of your life should be enjoyable, and you should most of your life should be present and in awareness so that you can make adjustments. Because just to reiterate what you said, you have every single choice you make is a choice on your path or away from your path. And the more you're aware, the more you stay on your path.
So here's a question that comes to mind, and it kind of wraps up to where we sort of started this conversation, and paradigms and following what were conditioned societal norms, right? And I don't think it feels good to most people. So anyone who's listening and in that space of autopilot, going through life's motions, lacking passion and purpose, what advice would you give them and I don't think it means you have to leave your 9 to 5 and go start a business, but it could be a passion project, a hobby, a side thing. What would you recommend for somebody to go ignite that torch?
Okay, I love this because it's super easy. Once again, and it's free. So write down on a piece of paper, kind of like in the middle of the paper, write down me and circle it, and then put some spokes out from that. And go back into childhood and think about all the things that you did that really just lit you up inside. So it would be something that time didn't exist anymore. So for me, for example, it would be drawing. Like I loved coloring and drawing. I loved just being in the grass, like doing cartwheels and somersaults, like for hours at a time, and had no idea. I would be out riding my bike. I would play with my Lincoln logs and build things, like a lot of imaginary things. So what you want to do is write down all the things that you just absolutely loved as a child. And then you want to find the connections to those. One of the connections might be that you just loved being outside by yourself. One of the connections might be that you were loved being a leader. So maybe you like pretend to be teacher with your stuffed animals or with friends. You want to find the connections and then bring more of that into your life. It does, like you said, does not have to be anything completely life altering, but when you can understand that, because those things did not leave you, they're still with you. That's still part of who you were. Maybe you loved swinging on a swing, and that would be something that you'd still love to do. Go swing on a swing. No one's going to look at you weird. And if they do, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if maybe swimming in the pool was something you totally enjoyed, go swim or go walk in the pool. Do something that really brings back that childhood joy, because that's really where your joy lies. It's just that we are conditioned to think, oh, you have to grow up now. You're an adult now. You have to grow up.
Yeah.
Do we? Question that.
Adulting
Do
so
I really?
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's questioning so many beliefs and programming, right? Hustle and grind mentality, FML. I've never liked that acronym, but a lot of people, oh, that victim mentality.
Mhm.
Here's a question for you because I feel like we've touched on a lot. What do you believe is a key takeaway you want listeners to get?
What I really want people to know is that you are perfect as you are, for
Mhm.
sure. Everything happens for a reason. You are perfect.
Yeah.
But if you're not liking your path, make different decisions. Doesn't have to be grand decisions, doesn't have to be leave your job, leave your family, to go do all these crazy things. Pick small things to start. If you don't like the way, say you don't like the way your clothes fit, make different food decisions or go for a walk or, go buy a dog and now you have to go for a walk. So
Yeah.
make some choices that will help you alter the trajectory of where you're at. Because if you think of it as a tree with all the branches, you might be on the wrong branch right now and you have to reroute your branch to go to another one. So, just know that you're perfect as you are, but if you want to change, just start with small changes. And that's what I believe in, because you don't have to rip the band-aid off. Find the small things you can do, like swinging on a swing, just to bring in some more joy into your life. Because once you start experiencing joy, you'll want more of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Preach. Okay, so I have a few rapid fire questions to wrap up the interview.
And you've got it.
First one, what is a quote or motto that you live by?
The future of medicine lies in energy frequency. Um, I'm missing one of those, but Nikola Tesla said that if you want to know what the future of medicine is going to look like, look in energy and frequency. And since we are all made, everything is made of frequency, 100%, it is true.
Yes. Well, and that's a whole nother podcast topic. It's funny you bring that up because I actually saw that this week. Maybe it was Instagram or something. But 100% when people understand, and that's why we're out here paving the way, right? To understand we live in an energetic universe. When you apply the principles, law of vibration, understanding energy frequency, your entire reality will transform. And we all have
100%.
access to that now.
Yep.
Second question, what is a book you're currently reading or highly recommend?
Um, I know I'm reading The Philosophy of Tao, but um, I actually recommend The Body Keeps the Score to a lot of people, but I also work with a lot of people with disease because I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I know we didn't touch on that, and have healed myself and don't take medication because of when you understand that your body holds the frequencies of emotions, whether negative or positive, and you understand that that will create disease, then you will know that all you have to do is release those emotions from your body. So The
Yeah.
Body Keeps the Score is a really great one for that.
Yes. Again, that's a whole nother podcast. And I love the idea of energy is emotions are energy in motion. And yes, any autoimmune, chronic disease, physical ailments are emotionally tied.
Mm-hmm.
Final question. What advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh, good one. Not take life so seriously
Mm.
because I was a very serious, very driven, very masculine based driven uh, doer. And that actually created my adrenal fatigue, which probably led to my multiple sclerosis diagnosis. But just enjoy life. I mean, it's way too short and fleeting. When you're 20 something, you think like, I got forever, but all of those choices, create the reality I'm in today at 49. So just don't be so serious.
Yeah. Such a great note to end on. Traci, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Heather, so much. It was great to be here.